Okay, hi everyone. Very nice to see you today on our webinar, Unlocking the Power of Thought. I'm founder of Discover New You digital platform, and we help people and corporations to discover the new potential on the different aspects of their life. One of the aspects is helping corporation in this challenging times, actually after coronavirus now, and that's why the webinar, the Unlocking the Power of Thought. So how we can be better and working more collaborative, setting up our corporate goals and be more successful in our leadership. So I have with me two experts, Jennifer. She's a Bob Proctor consultant, and also Dan Matthews, international best-selling author. So thank you very much for joining us. Maybe Jennifer, can you introduce a little bit, tell more about yourself and your experience working with PGI?
Hi, so I'm Jennifer Aceto-Carabin. I'm based out of Chicago, Illinois in the United States, and I am one of Bob's Inner Circle consultants certified with the Proctor Gallagher Institute. So we primarily look at mindsets. We look at the logic of individuals and teams and see how we can change that type of thinking in order to get the results, more of the creativity out of individuals and teams to get the results that they want in the workplace and also in the personal lives of my clients.
Great, thank you. Dan?
My background actually is in teaching. I have a bachelor's degree in physics and in English, a master's degree in biology, taught for about 17 or 18 years at the secondary and university level. But I left teaching and got into chemical engineering and did research chemistry for several years. And then during the entire time, from the time I was fairly young, I started studying spiritual development, personal development, and learning about how the universe actually works. And only recently, about in the last 5 or 8 years, started to learn about how the laws of physics really correlate exactly, not even just closely, they correlate exactly with the spiritual laws that Bob Proctor teaches, that Mary Morrissey teaches, that all of the spiritual development, the personal development coaches teach. From the days of, from 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad and all of the great spiritual teachers all taught the same spiritual laws that Bob Proctor and other people are teaching today. And it's time proven, the formula works, and everyone who's teaching it today from the time of the New Thought Revolution back 120 years ago with Wallace Wattles and Thomas Troward and people like that, through Neville Goddard and Earl Nightingale, those people all taught the same thing. And I'm here to talk about how that really applies to businesses who are looking to set goals, to change the culture of their business, and to get more harmony and growth, not just 1%, 2% growth per year, but percentage growth like you see in the companies that understand this, like Apple and Google and Microsoft, and companies that understand this technology, that have seen multiple 100% growth over the years. Anyway, that's where we're gonna head when I have a chance to talk about it, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Elisa.
Great, thanks very much, Dan. Great, so maybe I start with a couple of questions to you both, because you mentioned exactly in terms of maintaining business at the moment, and lots of leaders are setting up their goals, and very often companies, SMBs or big corporate struggle in terms to achieve the goals that the leaders are setting. So why is that, and how they can be better in that, how they can be improving their success as a leaders in terms of achieving the goals?
If I may, Dan,
Yeah.
I think a big part is to really understand how the mind works. If we have to understand the level of the conscious mind where we can originate these thoughts, we can create these thoughts. But the actual action and implementation is when they are emotionalized, right? When the leader emotionalizes these thoughts, when the team emotionalizes these thoughts, and therefore it's implemented. And even the goal itself, it must come from a very creative place, not necessarily purely logical, but inspired. Where the team can come together and leader who is selling the vision is truly inspired with that vision, can impart that to the team. And that will create a different dynamic and energy and a different logic in the team that they can implement. And that's where you have the growth. That's where you have the stretching, right? And even though it may seem impossible, I think that when we learn more about thought and thought energy, and what we attract to ourselves, I'm sure that Dan can really go into that in terms of like physics and quantum physics. We see that there's so much more possibility than we can imagine at this time, because when we're faced with COVID-19, we're faced with all of these, even here in the United States, a social upheaval. We must bypass all of these things and only focus on what is it that we really want to see, and then focus and move towards that target.
Right. Alex, do you want to speak? You want to ask a question? No?
I'll take it from where, sorry, go ahead if you've got a question, Alex.
Not yet, no, thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to take off from where Jen started there and talk a little bit about the importance of the vision of the goal. People have a misunderstanding of what a goal is, and they look at it in terms of solving a problem. Solving a problem is not a goal. Solving a problem is just solving a problem. And right now we've got a whole lot of problems, political problems, health problems, social problems, and people get sucked into looking at the problems. And really what needs to be done is the people who are the leaders need to back up. I'm not talking about political leaders, I'm talking about business leaders. People in a business have to stop looking at 1%, 2%, 4% growth in the next quarter. And they have to start looking at, what do I really love? What do I want to see? If I look 5 years in the future and there was no chance of failing, and there were no obstacles that could not be overcome, if I had a blank check, what would I love to see my company being 5 years from now? With no limitation. And this is where people stop. They stop thinking because they want to go into the negative parts and look at the problems and look at how this person's doing this and these people aren't working together and we're not getting shipments coming in. We have poor customer service. People don't know how to answer the phones. There are a million things that are problems. But the job of the leader is to have a vision. And the vision has to be without limit. You can't have a limitation on it, because what you're trying to do is set a goal and put that thought of the goal foremost in your mind and send that thought out You might have questions. You might have doubts. You might have not know how it's going to happen. How am I going to change this small business into a global empire? But anything is possible. There really are no limitations, because in the world of thought, there are no restrictions. And when everybody's had their time of creative thinking. When you have your time of creative thinking, when you're in the flow, you know it. You're connected to something much bigger than yourself. And in that connection is infinite possibility. And it's been said since the time of Buddha and Jesus, all things are possible. Jesus had to say it so many times, nothing is impossible. All things are possible. People didn't believe it back then. Even his followers didn't really believe it. They didn't understand it. How's that possible? But he understood it. He was a master personal development coach, because he could see the vision. He could see what was possible. And he knew that the source of that possibility was infinite. You could have your company grow 500% in the next 5 years. And my question is, why so low? Why not 5,000%? There are companies that have done that. But it requires the leader to have a vision and to impart that vision on the people who are working with him or her. That's the difference in the mindset, is looking at creative solution, a creative vision, a goal of what you want to achieve without limitation. And like Jen said, there's an emotional factor. And the emotional factor is this, and this has also been taught over the centuries to the few people who could understand it, is when you have a goal, how do you feel? Imagine yourself already having achieved that goal. I want my business to grow 5,000%. I want it 50 times bigger than it is now in 5 years. How do you feel when that happens? You feel exuberant, you feel satisfied, you feel fulfilled, you feel empowered. There are hundreds of words that describe how you feel. You feel grateful. Focus on that feeling. Set your goal. Find the feeling that resonates most with you, that really makes you feel energized, and focus on that feeling. And then you can put your thought out into the universe, into infinite intelligence, to God, whatever you want to call the source of energy. You can put your thought, your goal, and the feeling, the emotion that goes with it, and things will start to move to make that happen.
If I may, Dan and Lisa, yes. I feel that this is my observation, that you touched on it, Dan, that it really comes down to giving permission.
Exactly.
Yeah,
allowing the universe to move.
Yes, and because it's interesting because not only that, it's giving permission and giving this space for the leader and all the followers to get creative. And a big part of it, this is where Joe Dispenza comes in, yeah? When we talk about neocortex thinking, right? This is where the really creative center of the mind, that there has to be a stillness of the mind.
Right.
And, like just even simple deep breathing exercises amongst the leader and, the followers and the team members. And just that alone, that simple practice, you'll open up the creative centers of each individual's mind and to look at the realm of possibility.
Right. And it is in a spirit of allowing it to happen, of releasing your own thoughts, releasing your own focus on whatever's negative in your environment, how much you hate the way that person next to you eats their potato chips at the desk next to you. It bothers me that there's so much noise and they're smacking their lips while they're eating. People focus on that. And, or they focus on what people are not doing. Or how people are not in harmony. Why is that person always arguing with the person, everybody around them? Why are they so negative? And everybody gets sucked into that negativity. There's a time to let that go.
Right. It's interesting. And what Dan's touching on is really good, because this happens. Like, people come up with excuses because they don't have a vision to actually go after.
Yep.
They don't have a goal to go after, where all these little things are just, they're very small things. But when you're going after something that's so inspired in this goal, that everyone starts shifting in that direction.
Right.
Yes.
And what I would say, and it looks like both Wayne and Alex have pen and paper there. I would say a good exercise to do right now is to go back to this idea of, where do I want my business to be 5 years from now? What is a goal that I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know that it's possible, because everything is possible. There's nothing that's impossible. So what would be the ideal view? What would be the ideal vision of my business 5 years from now? Just write down less than 10 words. What would that be? It would be 5 times bigger than it is now. That person that nobody likes finally quits. I'm making a joke there, but when we all have in our business. If you have a business, go ahead, Alex. I see.
I had a question. Yeah. Let's suppose someone set a goal from now to 5 years ahead. Yeah. There is a kind of way to measure if you are going in the right direction in your positive thinking, because from now until 5 years, a lot of things can happen. Yeah. So how can you measure, evaluate if you're going in the right direction and your positive thinking is working?
Well, there's something that let me put it this way. Jesus said at one point, and I'm going to go back to Jesus because I used to be a student of the Bible for many years. He said you must have faith and belief. And I thought for a long time, why did he say both those things? Because I always thought of them as kind of being the same. And I got the inspiration that he was really talking about two things that are related, but a little bit different. And faith is the being convinced that the universe really is an infinite place with infinite possibilities and infinite amount of energy to make that happen, to make your goal happen. That the universe or God or infinite intelligence has the ability to do that because all energy is there. And belief is the being convinced that it's already been given to you. Once your thought goes out, the universe starts to move to make that thought start to come into reality. Getting focused on, am I going the right direction? Have I done the right thing? I don't know what's going to happen next week, and I don't know what's going to happen next week. But you know what? I know that the information about what's going to happen next week is already in the universe. Nothing, all that energy, all that information in terms of vibrational energy, signals, that information is already in the universe. And even though I may not know it because I don't have the way to sense it, the universe knows how things are going to go. So all I need to do is have my vision clear and focus on my emotion. And if you're trying to make a decision about what the next step is, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel like you're in harmony with your emotion, with your emotional connection with your goal, or is it taking you giving you less harmony with it? And that's the best way I could put it is it, do you feel like it's taking you closer to your goal? Because I imagine myself walking along a path, and I know that if I'm going from my house to a viewpoint someplace, there's a path, but there are always side paths. And sometimes if you get on a side path, you end up down in a swamp or at the edge of a cliff, and you don't know where, you don't know how you've gotten there, but you know you're not on the right path anymore. The nice thing is you can always turn around and go back and get back on the path that's taking you toward your goal. But I think I'm going to stop talking for now and let Jen take over a little bit, because I feel like she's got some things to add, but I'll get back to it in a minute.
Okay. Oh, no, go ahead, Dan. Did you want to just finish up? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. I could feel that you were going to, that you had to
add something.
things you wanted to add in there.
Well, what's interesting is we have to remember that even when we project something out like 5 years or 10 years, it's all according to our level of awareness that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's according to our own logic, you see. When Dan mentioned about faith, it's so true. And Bob will make a distinction, right? That it's faith based on understanding and study. Mm-hmm. It's not faith based on blind faith, right? So it's about studying like what Dan has studied in terms of spiritual teachings. It's about studying more advanced scientific data now about, thought in relation to quantum physics, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a process when we study these things about potential. It's something called unfolding. And part of unfolding is our perception changes. And one of the things we could change in terms of our perception is that what if we were to just hold the image of the goal fulfilled, assuming the energy or the feeling of it and acting as if it's already here, and then the logic as to how to get there is presented to us. Mm-hmm. Very different way of thinking. And what I've often communicated to clients is that we have to understand our education system has taught us to think a very specific way. It hasn't necessarily taught us to tap into imagination. It hasn't necessarily taught us to tap into our intuition. So we're using these different mental faculties, as if we're exercising muscles, but the more we use them, the stronger they become. Yeah.
That's really well said.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And if you haven't read Neville Goddard, his book Power of Awareness goes into, it's a short book, takes about 2 hours to read if you just read through it, but it takes several years of study to really get a good understanding of it.
What's the name?
I just ordered.
The book is called Power of Awareness, and the author is Neville Goddard. It was written in the early 1950s, but it's very relevant. He has a gift for saying something in very simple words that's very profound. And one of the things he says, talking about what Jen just mentioned, is he says the future must become the present in your mind. And that's why I say, imagine yourself 5 years from now in a prosperous business that has met or exceeded all of your expectations. Imagine where you are and imagine how you feel, and then bring that feeling back to your present life. And that's what you focus on. It doesn't mean there's no work to do, because it always takes energy. You have to put in energy in order to make things change. That's a fundamental law of physics. In order to make something change, energy has to be put into it. We don't have the energy within us. It doesn't exist out of nowhere, but we take in energy. And if you want to move a box from the bedroom to the basement, you can imagine yourself doing that, but it takes energy on your part to do it, to make it happen. Where did you get that energy? Well, you ate food, you exercised, you had energy put into you, chemical energy put into you, and so you have energy within you to move that box. You probably know somebody who doesn't have the energy to move a box from one room down to the basement.
So,
Yeah,
just
great. Yeah, go ahead.
a question, if I may.
Sure.
So, I have a vision. I'm the leader.
Have you written it down?
No, I'm talking hypothetically. Oh yeah, I've
Okay.
done them, but I'm retired right now, so I could have used some of this about 40 years ago. But these little things come into play day to day, because there's visions and there's visions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but what I'm practically speaking, as a leader with a vision that I feel passionate about and have the faith that we can get there, you talked about giving permission. So there has to be two levels of that. Me giving permission to myself to think limitlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But how do I impart that to the people I need to bring the vision to life? When I need people, we need people to bring vision to life in organizations.
First thing, go ahead.
Yeah, so what does that permission giving look like, feel like, get acted on?
Do you want to take that, Jen? I've got an idea, but I'd like to hear what you say on it.
I would say that it's actually like a masterminding session with the whole group. And it's almost like, okay, let's just say, and here's the thing, the decision has to be made that we're going after this. There has to, meaning it can be consent and accepted to be true that this is possible. And then from there, and all that we think about is how can we manifest this together?
Okay, so the permission giving has to start with agreement on the vision.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
this is where we can go.
Yes.
And then it's the actual fact of letting people loose with certain guidance, etc.
Exactly.
And you're saying kind of workshop it and get people, explore the vision and get people emotionally enrolled. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then go from there.
I think the word that I would use is to get clarity. If the leader is clear, then the vision can be described. Yes. And if the leader is passionate about it, like you were saying you were, if the leader is passionate about it, that gives the vision force, gives the vision energy, so that the information can travel from the leader to the, you've been around people, when the inspiring speakers that you were just hearing today, inspiring speakers have clarity and they have passion. And that comes through in the energy from the speaking. And we've all been in a room where somebody walks into the room and the whole energy of the room rises. You say, oh, she brings a light wherever she goes. I know somebody like that. They walk into the room and the whole room gets better. You can feel it. And if you have clarity and you have passion, then from there, the only thing you don't need to worry about how it's going to happen. Those will take care of themselves. But keep your vision clear. Keep your mind, keep your heart on the goal.
And how do you factor in simplicity versus complexity of a vision?
Well, it should be simple. It doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it should be, simple. I think of simple as clear. It needs to be clear.
Yeah.
Usually that means it needs to be concise. So you don't need to work out all the details. You just have to have the vision. If you think of and you've probably known somebody who has a garage full of junk, and they want to buy a new car. Well, their vision is the new car. But in the way of getting their new car into a place of safety to store it overnight, there are some steps along the way, like the garage has to be cleared out. And sometimes we have in a business, there needs to be a kind of clearing out of a space for the vision to actually come in and have a place to live.
Thank you. Makes sense.
I did want to talk a little bit about the physics of thought, since we're talking about thought and leadership. And this looks at the world. Physics can look at the world in one of two ways. One is what they call classical physics, which has to do with for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. In order to move something, you have to apply a force. Something that's in motion will stay in motion unless a force acts on it. It all has to do with force and movement and things that we can measure. But if we look at things that we can measure, like time and distance and volume, and there are hundreds of things that can be measured very accurately. But when it gets down to the very fundamental units, which is distance and time and mass or weight, physicists don't try to define what those things are. They say that they are fundamentally undefinable. Mass, distance, and time. Because they're fundamentally undefinable, it gives classical physics a little bit of a problem, because everything is measured in terms of mass, distance, and time. But mass, distance, and time can't be defined. Neither can energy. And the only thing we can say about energy is energy is. Energy is everywhere. There's radio frequency energy, television energy that's in the air all the time. We have no way of sensing that, but we can make little machines that sense it and can change that energy into a song, into a video on the TV, can send that energy through the information through cables for cable television, can make the internet work, and all the reason that we're able to talk like we are is because there's invisible energy that's filling the universe. Quantum physics, which is what used to be called modern physics, and now it's just called quantum. It was called quantum mechanics. Now it's called quantum physics, and there are some other abbreviations for it. Deals with the universe on a very small scale. And we all know that we went to school and we say, well, the atom looks like a ball with a nucleus in the center and little electrons like peas going around a pumpkin. And we know now that that model is not accurate. It's not even close to being accurate, but it works well for chemistry. In the world of physics, if you take that little electron and you look at it really closely, there's nothing there. Even though it moves, we say electrons move through wires, through conductors, and they make electric current, and the electric current is real. You can really get electrocuted. But what's doing the electrocution is something that has no mass and takes up no space. And we think, how is that possible? It's possible because it's just energy. It's pure energy. The electron, not just the electron, also the proton and the neutron, which means the whole atom. They say an atom is mostly empty space. Guess what? It's all empty space. All it is focused energy. If you think, I like to think of it like a piece of really fine gauze fabric. And if you take a sheet of fabric and you pinch it between your fingers and roll it up, you can make a little wrinkle in it. And what we call matter is just like a little wrinkle in the fabric of energy. Well, if we take a little electron and we perform some experiments with it, electrons sometimes come as a result of particles colliding. And sometimes when they collide, we're going to get into a little bit of physics here. It's not going to be too complicated. They come off in what are called entangled pairs. And they have, electrons have a little bit of have different properties. One of them is called spin. If you think of them like a little top, they're spinning, some are spinning one way, some are spinning another, but it turns out that they're always balanced. If one is spinning clockwise, the other one's spinning counterclockwise. So that the energy in the universe is always balanced. If you take those two electrons, they thought, well, how do we know they're entangled? Well, if we put them into a device that can flip the spin on one, the other one flips instantaneously to match it, even if they're taken a long ways apart. And they thought, well, that information, if this one flips, the other one flips by itself automatically. What if we take them far enough apart? How long does it take that information to travel from one electron to the other to make the second one flip? They took them far enough apart that they could actually measure the time that light would travel across that space, and found that the flip happened faster than light was able to carry the signal. And physicists thought, that's impossible. They took them further apart, and it didn't matter how far apart they took the two entangled electrons. If they flipped the one, the other one flipped instantaneously. And they said, this is not, the information that's traveling is not in the form of energy or matter as we know it. And the closest thing we can liken it to is the energy of thought. And thought energy is not a material thing. It's not, it has no mass, it takes up no space, and it is not constrained by time as we think of linear time. And at that fundamental level, there's information that transfers from particle to particle. Even though there's no brain, there's no motivational factor, there's nothing that they possess that we think of that's necessary for energy to travel. But there is still thought energy. And Wallace Wattles, who was one of the founding fathers of the New Thought movement, said there is a thinking stuff out of which all things are made, and which in its original form permeates and penetrates the interspaces of the universe. It penetrates everything. And when you put out a thought, that thought goes out into the universe instantaneously, into the field, into what they call the quantum field, and makes changes in the way the information is arranged in the universe. There's actual physical evidence that things can change from thought into physical matter. Something that's called the observer effect, which is another part of quantum physics. A researcher, an observer looking for, say, a particle called a meson, which is part of what makes up electrons. If an observer is looking hard enough for a meson will appear. And physicists did multiple experiments to try to say that's not possible. You can't, with your thought, make a particle appear. But the statistics said, if you put an observer down, the likelihood that that observer looking for a meson will find a meson is higher than if the observer is looking for something else. That the thought can be converted into physical reality. And all we're talking about for the power of thought in leadership is the thought of a leader. Think of a strong leader of a company. I think of somebody like Henry Ford or Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs was able to take a thought, a vision, and create an iPhone. There were a lot of other people involved. There was a lot of energy that was focused on that. But the material to make an iPhone has always been here. There's always been gold and silver and the materials to make plastic. Everything that's there, everything that's in an iPhone has always been here on the earth. But it took thought to convert the matter into a form that is the iPhone that we have today. And the same thing happens if you want to build a house. You have to think of it first. You think of it, you put your mind to it, you put energy into it, and you start putting the pieces together, because the pieces are all here. But it takes your energy to create the house that you have in your mind. I've talked to enough.
Right. Well, thanks very much. Oh, it's very, very interesting. I like it.
Just as you were talking, Dan, I have a friend who's worked at CERN for 30 years.
I'd like to talk to that person.
Yeah, and well, his father actually has been there about 50 years.
Wow.
Old physicists never die; they just go into the Hadron Collider.
That's right.
But so this is giving me gist for a conversation with him.
You ask him about it, because there's a ton of documentation.
But one of the things, and this is controversial, and I don't want to get into it, but I'll put it out there, is one day we were talking about the existence of God, and he said, "Never ask a physicist about God." Why? But no, don't answer that. That's a rhetorical question. Yeah.
Well, that was the old Descartes and Newton argument that went on 300 years ago. Yeah,
but no, that's interesting. It's fascinating stuff. I'm going to have to think about
Fascinating.
it.
Exactly.
It's the power of
Henry. We have another guest, a little bit late. Henry, hi. You there?
Hi, Elizabeth. Yes, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. No worries. Hi.
I'm in my car. I just got out of an appointment. Just want to log on.
So you could get it. Yeah, we have still a couple of minutes, no problem. So thanks very much for joining.
No problem, Elizabeth. Thanks for inviting me.
So we have Dan Matthews, the best-selling author, and we have Jennifer Proctor Gallagher, Institute consultant with us. And we are talking about leadership, unlocking the powers of thought these days. And we were talking about, you know, Dana was explaining about the thoughts, the power of thoughts.
Definitely.
Right.
Jen, I'd like to just say one thing, and that goes back to your idea of communicating a goal to a group of people. And I think if you were the leader of a discussion group, and if you think of it as a mastermind, the mastermind kind of has a structure to it. But if you just had a group meeting and you did just what we did a few minutes ago, and you have everybody write down what their goal, what their vision of the company is like 5 years from now, with no restrictions, I think it would be a great place to open a discussion about how to set up goals and how to for everybody to come into alignment in their minds, come into to perfect alignment about what the goal should be for that company, and it opened up a lively discussion, if nothing else. But I think if you got it down so that you could first get clarity with no restrictions, have people write down, how do you see the company that would be the company that you love to work with, that you love to be a part of, that you love to contribute to, and you love to see it grow? What would that company look like compared to the company that we have right now? And use that as a point so you could start to focus everybody's energy into one community goal, one corporate goal. Because once you've defined it as a group, you have a huge amount of energy. Everybody's minds are focused on the same topic. And the Mastermind Principle says when you have a group of people together, the energy that's created in that group, if they're focused on the same topic in harmony,
Yes,
the energy in that group is greater than the sum of the energies of the people that are involved.
yes.
That's the magic of the mastermind. And what happens in reality, what's happening is the unity or the alignment of everybody's thought for a common purpose, for a common goal, in harmony, opens the door for infinite intelligence, for the universe, for God to come in, and opens that channel so the problems don't mean anything. The perceived problems and obstacles are only stepping stones to your goal. They're only opportunities to find solutions.
This reminds me of a recent conversation with a client who works with one of the universities, and she heads a program for youth. And it was very interesting because she was angry about the way they're handling their scheduling, you know, with their assignments. She gets it last minute, it messes up her day, et cetera, et cetera. And then when she had spoken to her superiors about it, this was the exact words. Well, we've been doing it like this forever.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
That's a good reason to continue.
So that's the paradigm right there. That's the habit, and it's just automatic, right? So, and it's interesting how you said, Dan, the opportunity, the problems are the opportunity, but because she's learning how to use her mind differently, now she understands she's got to go into the creative. She can't fight the model.
No.
You don't fight it. You have to create the new model.
Yeah.
And then you have to think, okay, well, what is the hidden opportunity now? How, and she herself, this is very interesting because she's in a certain position, but she's taking on a leadership role just because of the way she's thinking and stimulating the conversation. How do we want this to look like?
Yeah,
and
that's
the higher ups, and the higher ups are going to pay attention because now they're like, oh, okay. You see, it's very interesting. So it's flipping It's flipping the visualization I have in my mind is we can all be like pumpkins in jugs.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the idea, right? The idea can only grow as big as a jug, right?
Yeah.
If like the seed of a pumpkin is equivalent to a seed thought.
Yeah.
It can only
It's
grow
exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly the same thing, but the spiritual and the physical laws, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the pure creative process where you just go into possibility. You forget about the jug. You forget about the pumpkin in the jug. You just go
Right.
straight into thinking, like, how do we want this? It's create a process again. And, you know, to teach members of the team to think in this way versus always fighting the model that doesn't work.
Right.
That will change the dynamic largely, actually.
And that whole idea of seeds is really an important thing for a leader to understand when they're dealing with a group of people. Because the first thing you have to do, if you think of it as a garden, the first thing you have to do is prepare the soil. And if you think of your vision as a seed that you're planting in this field, then that seed has to be planted in the minds of the other people in the group. And they have to be prepared to the point where that seed will start to grow. And then you have a lot of magic happen.
Very good. I have a questions as well, Dan and Jen, about, you know, leaders, because lots of the leaders are very competitive and create this competitive environment within, you know, their teams. Everybody wants to be better, you know, there are targets, and they, rather than creating more collaborative environment, they're very competitive. So what could you advise? What would be the best solution for them? How to change their mindset and, you know, create more collaborative, successful environment that make a huge impact on the company and the results?
You want to take it, Jen?
Well, when I was thinking about this question, it's really about a fundamental, deep subconscious belief that there's limitation, and it's always either or. And you can tell by how people speak, like they use but a lot, right? And there's a negation. Instead of thinking that the pie is so limited, why don't we make the pie bigger?
Mm-hmm.
That there's only so much, but that in itself is just a mental concept. It's not necessarily true. So how can we make the pie bigger in our mind and just collaborate? You know, the law of laws is the law of cause and effect. So if you want to cause greater abundance and greater blessings, we have to approach the work differently. Our attitudes have to change. So our thoughts and our feelings in relation to what we do, which is attitude, needs to change. So the attitude is there's more than enough to go around. We have to change the thought itself. And with that, there's less adversity. There's less backstabbing. And whenever we put out that negativity, it's always going to come back by law. Mm-hmm. So there's a fundamental understanding of these things that needs to be implemented in the marketplace and even in the workplace, I would say.
Everybody in a business, in a corporation, all of the people who are part of the decision makers, mm-hmm. all have to have that understanding. Because if you think of somebody, if somebody comes in the group that only thinks in terms of limitations, that only thinks in terms of problems, that only thinks in terms of competition, that the pie is only this big, and we want 33% of that pie. Well, the pie is an imaginary limitation. The reality is everybody can have all of the pie. I mean, the universe is infinite. There's no end to the pie. And people, that's a difficult concept. It's simple for me to say, but it's a difficult concept if you've always thought of your life in terms of a finite piece. That's what the world tells us. That my house is this big. It has 3 bedrooms, and that's all there is to it. That's the whole house. But we're talking about something different that really does not have limitations. And that's why I said, if you could imagine the business that you love without limitations, without everything that you want in the perfect business, with no limitation, no chance of failure, what would it look like? And that's a great starting point.
May I add on to that, Dan? Because what I'm also sensing as we're talking about this is, imagine how many more leaders will actually emerge. Because see, with limitation, right? With limitation, there's a fear of someone taking away from someone else.
Mm-hmm. And that's the concept. You know, if in order for me to get better, that person I have to step on that person.
Yes.
I mean, and it's not true.
Yes.
There's plenty of room for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is Wayne here again. You'd be describing an organization that had both the heart and the soul to support the achievement of the vision.
Yeah.
And I worked for a company that only realized that it had a heart and a soul after it lost. It had lots of great vision, too many in fact. And when we took a look at our basic principles and our basic values after they were lost through an acquisition, et cetera, then we realized that we had a heart and a soul, and it was lost. Anyway, that's a whole.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
Yes.
Oh yes, and it was a big corporation.
Yeah.
Yes. I see.
Henry, I think Henry has another question. Henry, can you unmute yourself, or?
You might be able to.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, the group, but I'm driving. Trying to be on here, but I just wanted to say about agreeing with the doctor about the abundance mentality, but also the lady that's talking about the limitations on that people have. But that's going back to what the lady's saying, because I follow Bob Proctor also. It's about a paradigm shift in thinking and mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one. But the people that are limited, they got the scarcity mentality. And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mindset that has to change in order to get coherence, to get everybody on the same page.
May I add one thing too? This just really, Henry, are you done or? Okay. See,
yeah,
what's
I'm
interesting.
I'm trying to limit the noise. I'm driving. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Because see, this is one thing too that's really interesting, is that when we look at the subconscious mind, right, and our subconscious beliefs, we will always attract the occurrences and the situations to justify the belief.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we come from the emotionalized thought that there's such a limitation and competition, you will always subconsciously bring those situations to you to justify the belief.
You'll create that world. Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. Yeah.
So that's the power of thought creating the limitation.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I think limitation, I therefore create limitation.
The law is the same for everybody.
And down.
Yes.
I'm going to write a book on that.
Sounds like a good one.
I've just looked you up, Dan, so I see that you've got a few articles and books and what have you. I have to go, unfortunately, but boy, I'd like to continue some of this. You two have both been great. So unfortunately, I have to go.
Well, thanks, Wayne.
Thank you so much,
Nice to
Wayne.
meet you, man.
See you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
Bye.
Bye, Wayne.
Take
Goodbye.
care.
Bye, Wayne.
Talk to you later, Lee.
Bye.
Talk to you. Bye. Bye, Wayne. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye. I think, Henry, did you want to add something, or do you have a question?
Yeah, if I could add about what the lady said about our thoughts, because our thoughts work under the law of vibration, which is the primary law. The law of attraction is the secondary law.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Vibration is and energy is always in movement.
Yes.
I love the paradox that says the only thing true about energy is that it never changes and it always changes.
Well, Einstein said that everything is energy. Match your frequency to what you want, because everything is energy, and that's it. Einstein.
Yeah, I had a woman ask me one time and said, I have my goal, but I don't know how to get on the frequency of the goal to attract it. And I said, how does the goal make you feel? In one word, how does the goal make you feel? And she said, well, it makes me feel satisfied. I said, then that's the frequency of your goal. Just focus on the satisfaction.
Exactly. Alex, do you want to ask something as well? Or maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
No, I'm just listening.
Listening. Great. Yeah, we always it's 8:06. I think. Do we have some more time, guys, or what do you think? Or Dan and Jen, or do you want to continue? Or
I have a little more time if we have some questions.
Alex and Henry, do you have any questions?
No
No,
questions
I'm a
so
little
far.
bit late. No questions. I was listening. I just wanted to give feedback on my.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me, Elisabetta.
Nice to meet you, Henry.
Yeah, nice
Yes,
to meet
sir.
you.
Seeing you.
I'm a new friend of Elisabetta on social media, but I'm also a Proctor fan.
Great.
Nice.
Very good. Nice. Well, we have two more questions, but it depends on you if you have time to reply, or we can always have a next session, or what do you think? There was.
What do you think, Dan?
I have just
I've got
one
some more
question.
time. So
Yeah.
go, Alex.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Just one question. So for example, right now, due to the pandemic, everybody's facing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, each country is a bit different from others, but everybody's facing the pandemic. And pandemic is generating a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So how the anxiety is affecting in some way that kind of positive thinking, how people are taking care of anxiety.
Dan, did you want to respond to this one, or?
Well, I think what I do is I don't give the pandemic any energy,
Mm-hmm.
because the more we think about it, the more we attract it to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I firmly believe that my body knows how to heal itself from anything. Your body is made to heal. It's not made to be sick. And I know that negative thoughts can make my body sick, because I've been there. I was in the hospital because of negative thoughts that made me sick. But I also know if that's true, then positive thoughts will prevent me from being sick, because I'm encouraging my body to heal itself. And I just leave it at that. My body is strong and healthy, and I have a powerful immune system, and I am grateful for that.
So, yes. It's interesting because it's true, but the negative thinking will actually suppress the immune system.
It does, yeah.
And makes us more susceptible to viral attacks, yeah. And I wanted to just mention that, see, if we get very emotionally involved with health and vibrancy and strength and just being healthy, we will subconsciously do everything to cause that.
Mm-hmm.
We will literally, like, we will even keep ourselves in whatever quarantine situation we need to be subconsciously to maintain that health. But the main thing is that we have to just think of health. We'll get the vitamin C supplement that's going to keep us healthy, right? We'll watch things that keep our energies up just automatically. And I wanted to just share also that one of my clients was stricken with COVID-19. And what was interesting is speaking to her husband and two of her business partners, she was on life support. And we visualized her healthy. But she's also been through our mental training programs too. So we visualized her healthy and she came right back. Even though it didn't seem like she was gonna make it. Her kidneys shut down, everything, guys, everything.
Wow.
She came right back. She's in rehab right now back home.
Wow.
So the power of thought is very real.
Definitely.
And yeah, so just keep it there. Keep it to what you want it to be. Don't even entertain, like what Dan said, don't even entertain.
Great.
Yeah.
Henry, do you raise it? Alex? Oh, yeah. Do you want to continue?
No, I just said thank you, and it's interesting. Thank you for the comments.
No problem. Henry, you raised a hand, so do you want to ask question or?
No, sorry, no more questions. I'm just listening.
Okay. Very good. Right. Great. I really appreciate it. You know, we can continue, I think, on the topic because it's so interesting, and
Yeah.
and Jen and Dan give a great content. I mean, Jen is now working with us, so you can always contact her directly on the platform, info@discovernew.net, and have a one-to-one session with her. And I'm sure we are going to do more of this kind of webinars together. And maybe even Dan, if he has a little bit of time of his, it's a pleasure. And I really encourage you also to read his book. You can buy it online. So he's a great international author, and his book must be very interesting. So
and if you follow Bob Proctor, it follows through the same spiritual laws that Bob presents from a physics point of view.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Excellent.
great.
Well,
So,
thank you so much,
thank you
Elisa
very
and
much.
Jen, for putting
Thank
this
you,
together.
everyone.
This is it's been a pleasure, and look forward to another session.
Look forward to another session. Thank you very much, Dan and Jen. Really appreciate it. Alex
you,
and
guys.
Henry, thanks for participation.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
lovely
Nice to meet
day.
you, Dan, Jennifer. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.